Today we're going to be talking about tips and tricks when plating. Judges are looking for several aspects of your plate. We're looking for color, we're looking for height, we're looking for shape, and we're looking for texture. All those things to help set your plates apart. Using proper cooking methods are very important to help us achieve our outcome. Remember, if you're all doing the same recipe, you've got to do something to set yourself apart and make your plate look really special. So, we're going to talk about a couple different plate styles, and we're going to talk also about a couple of cooking methods on how to obtain things. And now when I say cooking methods, let's take green beans, which we're looking at today. When I use green beans, we want to make sure we blanch our green beans if we're going to saute them first. Why do we do that? Well, we blanch in boiling water, then we shock in ice water to lock in that green color. So then when we saute them or stir fry them or do some other cooking method, they'll retain some of that nice bright green color. So we get a natural green color on the plate. Also, we want to look at proper texture. If we cook everything really done and things are too tender, or sometimes when things are too crispy, that's not a good plate. So we want a nice mix. If I've got a piece of meat that's got a little bit of a chew to it, I might want a crispier vegetable. I've got a nice soft starch on the plate, so I want the palate to be excited by the different textures. We also want to look at, as I said before, height, because really flat plates are boring and nobody wants a flat plate, even though that's been the standard for years. So we're going to look at 4 classic plates. The first one is our old standard, the one we grew up with, the smiley plate. We call it that because we basically have the protein as a mouth, and then we have a starch and vegetable as the eyes. Now here we've done a little bit of a nice bias cut on the carrot, just to give the carrot a little bit of excitement. Also, it raises it off the plate. This is not something we're looking for in a competition setting, but I want you to see it just so you can differentiate between this and what we're looking for. This has been the standard at home with the family for years, but for our purposes, it's not really what we're looking for. Now, the next version is our stacked plate. Now, this is one of those things that you see in a lot of top restaurants. We put our starch on the bottom, we've got our protein sauce on front, our garnish, and then we've got our green beans for the height. Once again, compared to the first plate, you notice it looks a lot more inviting. It looks a lot more exciting. Stacking the green beans gives that plate a lot of natural height, and we've got this beautiful green color from them being blanched first. Also, if I'm using a fresh product like this fresh green bean, you'll notice I leave the ends on because those ends are nice and pretty. A nice, beautiful product like this shouldn't be all chopped up where you can't really enjoy it. I have piped the potatoes on there. I'm leaning the protein, in this point a sirloin steak, on. I have done some dots with a green onion oil and a few fluted mushrooms. Now, you're going to be graded on your garnishing, and a non-functional garnish is right in the rubric as something you need to not do. So if you do have a garnish on your plate, which you should, you need to make it effective. Here I've done some fluted mushrooms. Mushrooms go with the steak. They're nicely cooked, they're seasoned, they're a real flavorful addition to the plate. Now, if you do something like that, it's really important because judges are going to be looking at your waste. You take those little pieces of trimmings from those mushrooms and incorporate that into your sauce. Then you strain that sauce at the end because you always want your sauce to be nice and clear, but I'm using all those cast-offs in another way. So this is a style of plate that's going to be very common in your competitions. A third type of plate that you're going to see is a little bit more avant-garde. This is what we would call our freeform plate. And here we've got our food cut into smaller pieces and kind of arranged around the plate in a different manner. This is a very modern technique. This is very fashionable. Even though it's spread out around the plate, it's still a fairly clean plate. And once again, when we garnish, we really don't want to take a big sprig of parsley on here or chop it up. Over here, we use the green onion as an oil to make it a little bit more effective. But this is a freeform plate, and you're seeing this more all the time. There's not a lot of rules to the freeform plate, and that's, I think, what makes it so appealing. Small little bite-sized pieces, decoratively placed around the plate. Our last plate here, this is what we do when we're using negative space. So we put basically all of the food all on one side. We've got our carrots cut into a nice bâtonnet, our piped potatoes, sauce, and steak. Typically, this might be completely clear, but I wanted to show you another sauce, what we would call a swoosh, just on this plate. This is, once again, more modern and something that we're seeing more of in the kitchens all the time. Once you decide what you're going to do, as I said before, figure out your garnish. Make sure that it's functional, and by that, it's just not pretty. We want it to taste good. It should smell good. It might even be something that is, you hear when it snaps, but something to add to the plate. But don't put anything on a plate that someone's going to look at the plate and immediately pick it up and take it off and set it to the side. That's never going to go well. Also, make sure you have a nice sauce. Make sure it's nice and flavorful. Make sure it's smooth, and then use it in an effective manner. Our first example here of the old-fashioned, that's not really a pretty plate, and I don't think any of us would be happy if we got that. But here, effective use of sauce, and here, so whether you're doing dots or a swoosh or just an underliner or maybe swirls around, or what's very popular in the desserts are the fills, where we pipe out chocolate and then fill it with the sauce, all very popular. And the last thing I'm going to leave you on tips and tricks for plating is you will notice that outside of the food, the plates are clean. Never take a plate to the judge that has fingerprints on it, smudges of sauce, anything that shouldn't be on there. It's one of the reasons why we just don't throw a bunch of parsley all over the plates, because it looks improper and it doesn't look, very professional. So clean those plates when they come to the judges, because it's the first thing we're going to notice. Is it a clean plate? I hope you enjoyed this little seminar on tips and tricks for plating. I hope it's helpful in your competitions. Remember, that beautiful plate is going to go a long way with the judges. So remember these tips and tricks, and good luck.